Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm here again with Miss Lynn Davis. She's on a podcast about hidden abilities, and today she's going to talk about resources that we have. Now, I know for myself, being classified disabled, it's hard to find resources for myself to buy medicine, for housing, for transportation. We face a lot of issues in our lives, and we're here to give you some information and some support on where you can go to get this, to get these services for yourself. Now, Miss Davis, can you please tell us about what you went through with getting services and your journey?
Well, getting services, like you said, is not easy as it seems. It's not like you can just go ask your neighbor or, go to your human resources at your job and ask for assistance because a lot of times these places don't, they have limited resources themselves, or they don't know that there is assistance out there for people who have disabilities or who find themselves falling on hard times other than the typical food stamps and Medicare and Medicaid. There are a lot of other things out there that actually can help people who, like, I think the two things that a lot of people are looking for is housing and healthcare, particularly around medications, not being able to afford medications, either because they're underinsured or not insured, or just have a very low income, so they have to decide between eating and a bill, like keeping the lights on, or taking or find the medicine to take and stretch it out. Because even when I had at one point there was a medicine that I needed that cost $500 for 1 month, and I was only bringing home $800 a month after taxes, or a little bit more, depends on how many hours I worked that month. And so I end up having to go to a pharmacist at the Publix near my job and explain to him my situation, see if he can break up my prescription week by week, because I got paid every week. And so every week on payday, he would dispense the amount of drugs that I need for that week. He'll just break up a month prescription and just dispense a few pills at a time, just enough for how much I can afford. And sometimes pharmacists can do that. They're allowed to do that. Sometimes they call it under what is called the bridge, like a bridge prescription. They can't do it for all medications. They can only do it for certain ones. Sometimes you'll need a prescription written a certain way, depends on what type of medicine it is. You'll just have to check with your local pharmacy and your doctor, if you have some type of uh, special medication that has to be highly monitored, like ADHD medicine or some other type of medicine that's monitored because of the FDA or something else. But most of the time, you can get the pharmacist to help you find ways to make it a little bit affordable, even if it's not getting the full 30-day prescription. You might have to break it up into some other smaller increments that is affordable for you. Like I said, the bridge is like if you go out of town, and as long as you have the prescription bottle that's current, and you lose your medicine or something happens, you have a prescription bottle, the pharmacist can get in contact with the doctor and they can write a short prescription, just long enough as long as you're in town. It's called a bridge. So to kind of basically build a bridge from where you are to get you back home. So any pharmacist can do that. They're allowed to do that, but you have to have a current prescription bottle or box showing that it's a current prescription. You have a doctor the doctor is currently dispensing this to you, and a big pharmacy chain or a small pharmacy chain can do this for you. It's not uncommon. You just have to know to ask for it.
Yes, thank you. And on your journey of getting services for yourself, did you ever feel like you were by yourself or you were out there all alone?
I did, but I am just fortunate enough that I've always had um, friends. I've always been able to make friends and associates that looked out for me. I networked a lot in all my jobs because I was always did some form of customer service. So in the middle of me trying to sell something to a customer, I might run into somebody who can, have the resources to help me with finding, medical care or something like that because I'm always running into different people and they just kind of help me. One person leads you to the next person. Oh, I know somebody that can help you, or something like that. Or they give me the little inside tips of programs to ask for, um, like asking drug companies that to give you see if you fit in their patient assistance programs. Sometimes government pays for um, certain medications like through Medicare and Medicaid, or the what some people call the Obamacare, or Affordable Care Act. Sometimes there's other programs like those that can help you get access to the medications for free or low cost. And all you have to do is just fill out the application. Sometimes you might need your doctor to do it to kind of help you um, with it to prove that you do need this medication for whatever reason, and then you just have to fill out some income information. And a lot of times they they will always, as long as you fit their criteria, they will always give you the medicine for free because they sometimes they get a tax benefit, or they have a foundation. Like Eli Lilly has a foundation to help people get the access to the medication. That other they contribute to other companies, and drug manufacturers contribute to certain organizations to help people get on their medicine for low cost or free. And I've always been able to find those places, but it hasn't been easy. It's just always been hard sometimes when I felt like I was alone. But like I always say, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So unless you walk up to somebody and ask a question and ask them, "Hey, I need help with something. Are you able to help me with something?" I don't, not asking for money, just asking for information. And sometimes people are receptive because they've gone through these things themselves, and sometimes they might not be the right person, but they can point you in the right direction, which is how I was able to find a lot of these resources that are being shown on the screen right now.
Yes. Yes, well, a lot of times the big issue in our unit is housing because when I applied for housing, I had to wait 7 years to
Hmm.
get the housing that I needed. Now, the resources are few or for housing, but there are some resource housing out there. Is that true?
Yes. Um, I've actually ran into this when I was at somewhere. Someone, a friend of mine, was asking for a client that they worked with who needed emergency housing because they just could not afford to stay where they were staying because they were going up on the rent. Um, Due to a lot of what's going on in the economy right now, and they weren't going to have enough time to find another place and move in. So I was saying, well, I know when close friend of mine, and I was also looking for some type of housing, the transitional housing. I looked for extended stay motels. They are places where people who have business dealings where they would go out of town, but they're going to be staying there for more than just a couple of days. They might stay for months on end. So it rents out, by the day, sometimes by the hour, but they have a kitchenette, a bed, a shower. There is light housekeeping that comes in. Everything's all inclusive. You know, you just pay the one fee and you have internet, cable, HVAC system, and things of that nature all at once. You just have to have more. Um, you have to have some place to store your things, and for that, you can always look at a storage place. You know, you can look at pods. They're a storage facility that can store your things for a low price while you're in these transitional homes, like extended stay motels, or you can go to a a motel like a Night's Inn or some other smaller hotel chains. There is a link on that resource page that was that you had displayed earlier for Red Lion. They have various hotels and extended stays that would fit people's budgets if you need to stay transitioning between um, um, a paid place like a house or rented place, and you're looking for some place to stay in the meantime until you can get back into a home or an apartment. They, um, like I said, it's very affordable. You can stay there for 1 day, 2 day, a week, a month. You just have to be able to talk to the person that is running the facility to be able to um, work out what kind of arrangement. So you got to put on your and you have some really good negotiation skills. Sometimes they already have a payment type system set up for this particular issue because a lot of people use those types of places for staying there long term or transitioning in between different places. So that's not uncommon. They're used to it. And, sometimes they have nice amenities. Like I said, free, the internet's included. You got cable TV. And sometimes they even might have a little pool or playground if you have children. And there might be a park nearby the location, so sometimes it's very centrally located. It can be within the city, so you're pretty close to um, where you work, where you eat. There's places to eat. There's grocery stores sometimes nearby. So it's they're usually centrally located because a lot of times, like I said, people from out of town would typically stay at those long term hotel stays if they're working, locally for a business, um, things like traveling nurses or anything like that. So you have a lot of different things to look to. There's also Section 8, which is sometimes hard to get on for low income, but there's also Section 811. Some states have that. You will just have to Google what's available in your state, your city, or your county. Um, you know, those also some places. And then there's some apartment complexes. If you were to Google them, you can find out that they also might have a special for people who have low income. Like there's a hotel, I mean, excuse me, a apartment complex that's near me. Um, it's not a bad part of town. It's just usually where a lot of low income people stay. People who are refugees, they cater to those that demographic. So sometimes if you look for certain areas that cater to people who might fit lower income things, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad neighborhood or anything like that. It's just that they cater. they're to the demographic or people who have lower incomes, who have disabilities. You can also call and ask, um, apartment complexes, what kind of specials they're running, especially if you do it off season in the winter and in the fall when people don't normally move. They usually will give you some type of move-in specials during that time because it's the off season. It's not during the warm season, the warm times like in the summer or Memorial Day weekend or something like that when prices typically go up higher. So if you need to find a place that's a little more affordable, you start looking for places in your area that's near you that cater to demographics of people who have lower income. You can ask for move-in specials. You can look for extended stay hotels. You can look for um, motels because they're accustomed to having people to stay there longer than just a day or two. So you have to ask these places. So you just kind of have to think differently about housing. You don't necessarily have to think traditional housing of buying a house, renting a house, or renting an apartment at face value. Sometimes you can find other things. You just have to be willing to ask the question because if you don't ask, you can't find out the answer.
So what you're saying, you have to go outside the box
Yes.
to actually do this.
Yes.
So
You have to
that's just
be
saying,
willing to
yeah,
put yourself out there. And it can be scary, especially if you got to cold call people. But usually, the people in these that fit that category of places that I was just describing, they're used to that. So sometimes they're not going to advertise it, obviously, because they're going to want everybody to pay full price. But if you ask,
yeah.
sometimes they would tell you that either they would do it or they'll know of another complex that would. So think of it as, getting on stepping stones. When you're trying to cross a river, it might not be a smooth path, but there might be a stone you step here that leads you to that one, to lead you to this one, to lead you to that one. Before you know it, you're on the other side of the body of water. So think of it like that. So never let yourself get disappointed just because the person tells you no. So you can always follow up. Do you know of anybody else that would have some information for me? And a lot of times people understand, especially now that everybody's going through a hard time. They're more willing to l- take the extra step, especially if you come off as very pleasant, you are very kind and courteous, you're not trying to be demanding, because actually that's not their job to help you find these resources. You're asking for help. So if you're coming from a place of asking for assistance instead of demanding something, typically people are a little nicer to try to help you out a little bit more. So sometimes this also has to do with your attitude and how you come off when you're asking for assistance.
And I do know there are some that they call them mixed unities where they
Hmm.
got low income, mid income, and high income. So sometimes people are living in places like that, and you never know that
Right.
they have a low income because it's called a mixed unity.
Hmm.
That you can also search for that mixed communities in Atlanta, Georgia, and apply there. So
Yes, and I'm sorry.
you go ahead.
Yes, and there was one other thing when I did have my first apartment. I knew that I live in Decatur, and it's pretty much a college town. There's so many different colleges, the community colleges, and major colleges like Emory and Mercer and Georgia State and things like that. So if you go to areas where a lot of typical college students would stay, or people that's coming into town for educational purposes. A lot of those apartment complexes near them also cater to lower income because they know college students don't have that much money. And they do know that not everybody is a traditional student straight out of high school. So um, even if you're able to take online courses at a some college or whatever, sometimes they'll give you discounts based on that. So if you look in areas where there might be college students stay, you can, ask if there's a discount for students. Sometimes depends on where you work, they might actually have discounts for that because I did used to work for a shipping company. There were some um, apartment complexes that if you told them where you worked, and you have to verify with your paycheck, of course, that you're currently working there, they will give you a discount because they work with those companies, because they know that these people get paid a certain amount of money, that they will give you a discount for living there. And there's also, if you're looking for a place to stay and you need income, you can also, if you're handy, um, and maybe have an HVAC um, license. You can fix things. You can look to see if, excuse me, apartment complexes or um, condominiums or whatever, that they can, if they need someone to fix things around the complex. A lot of times they will give you rent for free in an apartment for you and your family or your significant other, and then you just work there and they pay you uh, money to live there. You just All you have to do is just be on site handy person, so that when something goes wrong, they call you, you fix it. And you still have a regular schedule, but sometimes you might have to be on call for a weekend because they usually have two or three people so that they can alternate. Depends on how big the complex is. So, those are other things you can look at too. Find a place to work and live at the same time if you're willing to be the cleanup person sometimes, the janitor to clean up these apartments when they're getting them ready for somebody to come in or somebody moving out, or just be the handy person. So a lot of times these places will provide living arrangements for you in the complex for free in exchange for you working there and of course you getting paid. So that's also an option too.
Yes, and also with the internet right now, a lot of companies have discounts for people with disabilities or people who are seniors or students now
Hmm.
because the internet is vital nowadays because with COVID everything moved to the online way of
Correct.
doing. So you got Xfin and they have a internet deal. So you can call you can call the company and ask them, do you have a discounted internet service so that I can do my business so I can shop online? Because let's face it, people who can't get out, the best thing that happened was groceries being delivered to them.
Hmm.
That's the best thing happened. That's the best thing happened to them. Now they can go online and go to Kroger's or Puff.com and put what they want and they can have it come to the house.
Right. And on that line, with the last stimulus bill that was signed into law end of last year, the Biden administration, they had a temporary thing called that was supposed to help get high-speed internet to people who are in rural communities, in tribal lands, and low income people who are on government assistance. which companies like AT&T and Comcast and Xfinity, they already had one, which was you pay like $10 a month, or $30 a month, and you get discounted internet. But with this new one, they were able to, not only they saw such a success with the temporary one, that they made it permanent. It's going to be permanently funded. I think it's called the affordable, something affordable at, um, uh, it just escaped my head. But when you call these companies like AT&T or Xfinity and tell them that you are on some type of government assistance, and for Xfinity, it's called Internet Essentials. This government program, I think it gives you a $50 off, 50 to $75 off, depends on where you're living, um, off your internet bill. And then they also give you a certain amount of money towards getting a tablet or a laptop or desktop so that you can use the internet. And so you ask for, like, well, with Xfinity, I know for sure it's called Internet Essentials. Then you ask about um, the affordable internet program. They will help you sign up for it. You can get the high speed internet. You can also get a potential get a laptop or a tablet or something, and that's all government funded. And until the next budget thing, they're gonna see about keeping that on permanently, because they're trying to make sure that everybody has access to the internet, because there's still places that don't have internet. They can't
Mm.
afford internet, even though they're living in major cities, which, you see kids at the McDonald's and at the Starbucks
Or
because they don't have access to internet at home. So they have to go to the libraries and things of that nature. This way, it's supposed to be able to have it in your place of living.
yes. So there are resources out there for us. The topic of this podcast is There is Hope. I know it may seem hopeless sometimes, when you're trying to do something and everybody telling you no, but somebody gonna say yes to you. Somebody gonna say yes to you. Just keep asking, keep knocking,
Right.
because somebody gonna say yes to you.
Yeah. Like the scripture, paraphrasing it terribly, but keep knocking, it'll be open, keep asking, and it will be answered. It, and if you're a faith-based person, you have to exercise faith every day. It's not a one time and done. You have to keep constantly doing something. So if you are in a tough spot right now, you have to keep going. You have to not stop, because if you stop, then you're not going to ever get to the other side of the problem that you're having. And if I can just, use one quick illustration, if you don't mind. um, I had a teacher tell me one time about, there was these three small mice, I should say, that got stuck into a butter churn. Now it was just milk at the time when it got in, so they started swimming. The first two mice, they swam for a little while. Then they said, "I'm tired," and of course they did not. You know, they fell down to the bottom of the churn. But that last mouse swam all night long, and eventually, by the time the sun came up, he had turned uh, that milk into butter, because he just did not give up, and he was able to crawl out on top of the butter and crawl out of the milk churn. So it might seem impossible. It might seem like you're not getting anywhere. It might seem like you're spinning your wheels. But eventually, if you keep going and you keep swimming, and you keep paddling through this hard time, you're gonna get to the other side. You're gonna find the one person that's gonna help you, lead you to the right resources. It's all about not giving up.
That's right. Because People will tell you anything to keep you from your destiny
Mhm.
because they see you as being a person who needs a lot of help sometimes. And sometimes they don't want to be part of that. But I found out that if they see you and I working hard to reach their goal, they just may decide to give us support.
Mhm. Or they might be inspired by your efforts to see that you're making headway and be able to do it for themselves or someone else. So
Yes,
you never know what your just because somebody might say no to you today, but they see that you're constantly going back to finding these different places and different asking people, you might inspire someone to actually help get the help that they need or get the help to somebody else. I'm constantly seeing this on YouTube where there was a young man, he was in a similar situation, him and his mom, and he should have been in school, but they were just so without resources that he had to beg for food. And but he didn't just beg for money. He said, "I'll work for it. Let me help you get your stuff and put it in your car." After you approach people that after they finish shopping and said, "Let me have you put your stuff in your truck, in your car, or push your buggy back up for you in exchange for you buying me something to eat at the store." So he never asked for money, and eventually one day there was a young man that noticed that he wasn't well off himself, but it was just him, and he said he saw that the young man was doing that, and people were telling him no, and he was inspired not only to just buy him the one thing he asked for, which was glazed donuts, but to buy a whole uh, week's worth of groceries for him and his mom. He took them back to the place where him and his mom was staying. You saw they were living in such um, low quality. They didn't even have bed. They just had like layers of blankets on the floor. And so it inspires him to help. And then not only was he able to do that with that one day, but he was also put it out on social media. He got a GoFundMe going. So now the mom and the boy, they got furniture. They were able to get the medication the mom need. He also is now in school to go. He finished high school. He was able to get some scholarship money to go to college, and he's doing well now. But you never know if you don't ask. The person you asking might say no, but somebody else might see it, and they might be the one that's going to help you. You see, so and sometimes people don't always do it directly. They might do it indirectly because not one of those type people to publicly put everything out there. But like I said, if you never ask, you never know who's watching you, who's going to help you out.
yes. And we should not let our so-called bad times stop us
Mhm.
from reaching our goal. Because we allow them to stop reaching our goal, we would never reach our potential.
Right.
And because I was told I couldn't work, but I met you working, right?
Mhm.
And I was told that I would not be anything in this world.
Mhm.
But today I'm somebody. And that's our message to you. It doesn't matter what anybody, it doesn't matter what Jim, Joe, or Chuck say about you. What matters is what you know about yourself. If you believe in yourself, you can do great things. If you believe in yourself, you can climb that mountain. If you believe in yourself, you can kick that. You can kick that wall down. If you believe in yourself, the sky's the limit for you. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult because I've been there. I was looking for housing, getting $730 a month. Had to wait 7 years to get in housing, but I made it. I had to stay. I had to stay in. I, I I had to live with people for the during that time. I had to say, I did what I had to do. But I always believed that I was gonna get housing. When it came through, I was happy. But if I had given up, I would not be where I am today. I'm sure that Lillian had the same story. Isn't that true?
Yes. Yes, I was. I remember I didn't realize I had a learning disability going through elementary school, so I was constantly teased by classmates. Um, because I have ADHD and dyslexia and dysgraphia. They weren't looking for that at the time, and you know, um, in areas where they were around more black children, it wasn't something that they were looking for us. And so I was fortunate enough that I had a elementary school teacher and principals that didn't want me to go into special education. They also they basically helped me get through these that time by encouraging me to read because I can read to myself. I just had trouble reading out loud. Sometimes I had trouble writing so that you can easily understand what I was writing, because I would spell things inaccurately, transpose letters, and so it was difficult, but I kept going and I never stopped, and I knew it was not gonna be easy, and I wanted to finish school because I knew my grandmother never got a chance to fulfill her dream of becoming a nurse because their family was sharecroppers and they never got past the third or sixth grade for the most of them. And my grandfather, as far as I know, he didn't go to school at all, but he knew how to read and write. And by the time I grew up, they had their own place, they had their own house, they had their car. And so they went from literally dirt poor to having their place within one generation. And now all their children, they've all have a higher education, they had their own places to stay, they live in houses. And that inspired me because I knew that if they went through it and things were a lot more difficult back during the time when they were growing up and when they were my age, that they could only go to school when it was raining, because they spent the rest of the time out in the fields picking cotton and growing fruits and vegetables, that they didn't get a fair share for all the work that they did. I knew that, just because, being teased and being bullied is not a nice way to go through school, but I knew that if I kept going and kept pursuing my education, what that means I had to work a little harder, had to stay up a little later. It took me a little longer. But if I kept going, I was gonna eventually get out of high school. I graduated in the top 10% of my class in high school. I was able to go to college. I graduated college and I have a degree. I actually went back and fulfilled my grandmother's wish of getting in the medical field. I became a medical assistant for her. Um, and now I'm running my own. I'm in the process of running my own business for a beauty care product brand, and I'm going back to school as well to learn how to formulate my own products as well as to do hair, skin, and nails. So it it's a long process, but I learned a lot about myself and others along the way because I never gave up. I never stopped. And stopping is the worst form of giving up because that means you just gave in and you gave up on yourself. So you can't have anybody believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. That's what I think anyway.
We just want to let you know that there are resources out there for you, but you gotta look for them. It's like if I want to get a job, I'm not gonna get a job by staying at home and not going and looking for it. I have to go out and put my resume out. I have to talk to my friends and say who's hiring here, who's hiring there. There's work involved in achieving our goals. I know it may seem hard because it was hard for me. It was hard for me. But there were times when I didn't want to do it. There are times when I got tired. I rested, but I didn't stop. When I got tired, I took a little rest, but then I got back up and started pushing again. So there are resources out there for us. I don't care if you're disabled. I don't care if you got low income. Whatever your circumstance, there's a resource out there for you to make it. And sometimes the resource may be teeny tiny. But that small little thing may have enough power to propel you to greatness. So I'll say this. Miss Davis is an innovator. She is a great person. She is a person who figures things out. She's a person who doesn't give up because I've seen her grow and flourish into the great woman she is today.
Thank you.
I want you to know that I've seen that in you. I saw it in you when you came in. I saw it when you came into the place where I worked at. And I tried to foster that and I tried to encourage you to just keep striving and keep pushing. I tried to do that. Just know that you are a person who is capable, a person who can do anything you want to do. And that's not just for her, that's for anybody out there in the world who feels inadequate, who feels like they can't do it. Just know that you can do it. Miss
Yes.
Dave, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Oh no, yes, I was just saying yes, I agree with that and thank you for such kind and encouraging words that you've given me over these years of us knowing each other. Yeah, because there was times I didn't even feel like getting up, but I knew that with some of the things you gave me as assignments to, that sometimes that's the only reason why I would show up because I knew I had an assignment and it was something I needed to do. I didn't want to do it for myself, but I wanted to do it to help somebody else. And eventually, in helping someone else, I end up helping myself. And there are days when I don't even want to get out of bed sometimes, let alone brush my teeth, eat or drink, or do any kind of personal care. But I know that if I can think of the fact that what I do today, the little bit that I do today, can inspire somebody else to get out of the situation they feel like when they're stuck, you know, it can help somebody else. Because so many times I've run across people in my travels day to day where they're at such a low point because the only thing they see, excuse me, is darkness around them. They feel so stuck and they feel so down because it seems like nothing's getting better. But if I can just tell them, hey, I was there before. Sometimes I might be there with you right now. But the fact that we're talking and sharing this information with each other, we're helping each other out, then that we can get through it together. We can roll the boat together and we're gonna get to the other side.
That's right. And and can you please tell us where to find you on social media?
I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, pretty much all major social media websites under my business name, which is Becky BECKY the letter B Good LLC. That's the name of my company. I plan on using that to launch my beauty brand products, and I also have my own salon one day. And you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter at that same handle. And soon I'll be launching a informational website where I'll be putting up the information that I've learned along the way from formulary school and cosmetology school from Aveda that I'm working on trying to get in right now. Put up some articles and other helpful information to just share the information with other people until it's time for me to start launching my own products. So I hope everybody was able to uh, get encouraged to keep looking, to keep striving, to not give up, and also to know that the resources are out there. You know, and whether you're able to do a Google search or you just have to do boots on the ground, as they say, asking people, going door to door, and businesses or hotels or whatever you have to do, just get out there and keep trying. You know, when you stop, you're not gonna make it to the morning like that mouse and turn that that milk into butter so you can climb out of that hole. So you have to keep going. Even if you might have to take a break sometimes to reassess your situation, but never stop moving forward.
Thank you so much, Ms. Davis. Now, I got one sponsor I have to say something about, and it's Jennifer Geigel at Epicure Leader. That's JENNIFER Epicure EPICURE Leader. And her website is Jennifer Geigel at Jennifer Geigel Epicure.com. So that's my sponsor, and and just know that life may be difficult and hard sometimes. We can make it through it. We can survive. Just know that we have the power inside of us to overcome anything that comes our way. And don't give up on your dreams, hopes, and visions. Keep striving, keep pushing. And you can listen to this podcast at www.don'tgiveupthemovement.net. Have a great day. Have a great day.